another exciting day and exciting topic. We continue to give a wealth of advice to the business community, uh, uh, businesses that want to expand operations, that want to scale. And that is why we spend a bit of time every week with my usual guest, my usual suspect, my good man, CD Chrispin Daka. How have you been?
I've been excellent. I've been excellent, man. It's good to be back. Always look forward to this moment when we can share and like we this topic to us. It's very close to our hearts because I've got great respect for entrepreneurs and especially the growing businesses because they take so much risk and they go through so much hassle to make things work. And therefore, whatever we can do to help them scale, because the value is in scaling. Like the bigger you become, then the better it becomes as well. So size does matter, and unfortunately in the business world, in the entrepreneurial world at least, you cannot grow, you cannot scale significantly if you don't leverage, which means if you don't use debt. Yeah, so very excited and so happy that we're able to continue doing this to share our knowledge in terms of helping our beloved entrepreneurs, Zambian
Indeed.
entrepreneurs, who are the
Indeed.
provider of the employment in this country to scale,
Excellent.
so that
Excellent. Excellent.
and grow
And I
our
know that,
country.
excellent. And I know that you've been, traveling, different parts of the world to try and see what you can do, to try and bring some, products that can help the, Zambian community. I want to welcome you back home, but just a quick comment on the opportunities that we have out there in terms of, access to products that can, help Zambian businesses scale.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, we, by God's grace, we're privileged as part now of the more global family as an affiliate. We were moving around. So we're in Dubai, where we met, serious partners within our network, and there is great interest in supporting Zambia's development agenda. Everyone is very interested, so we've partnered up with them to help create a platform as a gateway for project finance. So, for in terms of the opportunity we're looking at, there is we were just looking at how do we make sure that can package Zambian projects so that they are bankable,
Yeah.
and that has been received extremely well. And the partnerships, including the local partnerships that we have, is looking very bright, and I'm very excited by the prospects that will come from that collaboration. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. I know we'll be talking about that in the subsequent, podcasts and how we can help, the farmers, develop growing products like seed maize in a number of farm blocks in and around, the country. The mining sector that is booming with exciting targets ahead of us. The construction sector, roads, different, toll gates, talking about border infrastructure and other auxiliary road, furniture. I know we're talking about that, but I think it's good that you are back. And like you said, in the subsequent, podcast, we'll be getting into the detail on what this means, what your trip means to the Zambian community. But let's get back home and talk about the issue we've been discussing for a couple of weeks now. That's a issue of bankability. Maybe we can start from the top, CD. In a layman's, language, what is bankability? A lot of people ask, sounds like a mouthful, a big word. What is bankability? Simple
Yeah.
words.
So bankability is really trying to make sure that you profile or package yourself so that you are attractive to the banks. That's really what we are talking about in terms of bankability. So that you are then able to use the banks to grow. Yeah. Yeah. So in a nutshell, that's really the bankability. There are some details in there, and some of the things we've already discussed, but including what we're going to talk about today, there are some details that go into that bankability discussion profile, um, and it really boils down to what is the bank looking out from you. So they will ask for a lot of information from you as you are trying to get the money, but as you're trying to get that loan, what is it that they are looking for? Because that's what bankability is all about. And it's all about, for them, it's, if we give this money, is it going to come back to us? Can you demonstrate that you pay back our money together with the interest? Because remember, for them, income, interest is their income. So yeah, so really that's what bankability is all about. It involves all these nuances in terms of what the bank is looking at for them to advance the money, to see that you are a safe bet for them, that you have a very high likelihood that you would repay them.
Excellent, excellent. I think we discussed this, and it's touched on a very important point. You said, what does it take for you to use the bank's money to scale your operations, to expand? A lot of people out there will be wondering, why should I bother? Why can't I use my money? But a lot of people think it's wise to use someone else's money. In this particular case, the bank exists to give money to people that need it. Just some distinction out there with, comparing using your own money and, of course, using the bank's money. We talked about scale. You scale faster. Just put some context, into this.
Yeah, excellent. So
discussion. The person wondering, why shouldn't I use my profits? Why should I go and borrow from the bank? What's the distinction?
Yeah, no, you are perfectly okay to use your profits or your own money, and it's what we call equity. But unfortunately, that will take you a long time to do it.
Yeah.
So, because for you to grow either your business or otherwise, what you need is control of an asset which generates value. So
Correct.
for you to gain control to something, you need, if you are using your own money, say for instance, something is worth 100,000 kwacha, as an example, right? For you to take control of something using your own money, and you don't have that money like immediately, then you would have to save. You'd have to save that money up. So
For a
if
long
you
time.
make
Yeah.
10,000, then it would take you, it would take you 10 months for you to now
And then
access
you miss out
yes.
on an opportunity because you're waiting for
Yes.
that money to accumulate.
But the opportunity doesn't wait. That's the unfortunate thing. But when it comes to leverage, you don't need the 100,000. What you need is just part of that amount. So you probably just need 20,000. With 20,000, you can now go and borrow the 80,000. You have control of the asset, start enjoying its benefits, and even repay. And even after you've repaid the loan, that asset remains yours. So you see, the issue that leverage does and debt does is that it compresses time. So you are still going to have it, but like we know, opportunities don't they'll change, things change. So as you are saving up, circumstances change and the opportunity is gone. So this is why debt is imperative for growth. They actually say credit is imperative for growth, because that then creates your ability to control the asset, which you can, even if that means you can buy stock which you can resell and then repay the money and remain with something. But if you were to save, to do that, it will take you for a long time, and even the opportunity to sell might even have been lost. That's why, when you look at all the big businesses, you look at their balance sheets, they all have debt in there, including Dangote. He has got debt in
You
his
can never
balance
grow
sheet.
without debt. Yeah.
No, you can't grow.
Excellent. We've taken a couple of weeks now discussing bankability from the perspective of a business. Now, let's discuss bankability from the bank's perspective. What are some of the things that the bank looks out for when evaluating a business for bankability? What are some of the key points that the bank will look out for in evaluating, in the evaluation of a business?
Yeah. Thank you for that. So for the bank, from the bank's point of view, what they are really evaluating is not whether the business makes sales or it's making profit. That's not the point. For them, they are mainly trying to answer a few questions. The first they want to look at is your size. So your size is very important. So that's why even in our 2, we have indicated what is your size. Are you above 1 million, 1 point, and above 10 million and things like that? Because the bigger you are, then it means the bigger the appetite they have. For them, the bigger the loan that you can afford, then the better. Yeah. So size matters. And also, what is the trend of your business? Are you growing? And, are you declining? Or are you just stagnant? Because that also gives them an indication of your ability. Because remember, for them is, can you afford the interest and can you afford to pay them back, when the amounts fall due? So you have that. Then, so knowing your growth rate is very important. Knowing what your growth, first of all, knowing what your size is very important.
Yeah.
So that you know which category you fall in. And then you can make goals. You can say, look, I want to, before I get into debt, I want to get this amount of debt. And this is the advice we give. So somebody wants a certain amount of debt, we tell him the sweet spot for that kind of debt would be a turnover of this size. Okay. Then the next thing is margins. You need profitability. So is your business profitable? And one key indicator that the bank computes, one key ratio that the bank computes is called the interest coverage ratio. So the interest coverage ratio is simply what we call EBITDA divided by interest expense. Now, what is EBITDA? EBITDA, those letters just stands for earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization. I know it sounds very complicated, but what they just mean is, what is your profit when we add back depreciation? Why do we add back depreciation? We add back depreciation because it's not depreciation. We are just computing the consumption of an asset. So it's not a real cash flow. So they're not really too worried about that. So they move that out. Then the interest is what you are going to pay. And then the tax, of course, happens after you have deducted the interest. So that number as a ratio. So when you get that number divided by the interest, so that you can see how many times can they cover the interest. Yeah, that's very important. So from profitability side, you need to know what that number is. Okay, and in our CFO fractional CFO, this is where when we do all these, we actually include that as part of the information pack that you have on a monthly basis. Then they also want to look at your cash flow side. Now, cash flow, they're not just interested in general cash flow, they are interested in your operating cash flow being able to meet your debt repayments. So it's called the debt service coverage ratio. So this is where you get your operating cash flow. So you get your profit, you adjust everything to do with your working capital, and then you come up with that cash which your operations are generating, because profits and cash flows are very different. You know, you can sell something on credit, you can buy something on credit. That has got very different impact on your cash flow. So that operating cash flow that you have, they want to compare it with your repayment. So that's why it's called a ratio. So they want to see that that one is healthy, that from your operations, including what you're planning to do with that debt, you know, you are able to meet the debt obligation comfortably. And they also
I think
want to, yeah, you can go ahead.
You just need to emphasize that point, CD, because quite often business will say we are very profitable. But the point you made is that you probably sold half of your goods on credit. And you know, you paid your suppliers cash. Okay. So it's important to just emphasize that point, the difference between, even if your business looks, the bottom line is healthy, you're making profit, but you may not have cash in the bank. Just emphasize that point, because that's a key ratio to most of the businesses when they are deciding to access the facilities with the banks.
I'm telling you, it's a killer. It's actually a killer. And especially on the, you know, the biggest opportunities that we have right now, government, the mines, they can never buy on cash. They never buy on cash. They have to buy on credit, on terms. Yeah. Typical mine mine terms are, you know, 60, 90. I've understood some of them even stretching it beyond that, you know, like for the mines that are not doing so well. So you find, and I can give a very simple example. You supply something for 100,000. You sold it with a profit of say 30,000. I mean 30%, meaning 30,000 is your profit. Meaning this sale is actually profitable.
Profitable, yes.
Yeah. But if they say they are only going to pay you in 60 days, then it means like right now, you are actually out of pocket because you don't have the 100,000. Yeah. So if an obligation, even for 20,000 came today,
you can't meet it.
You can't meet it. You
Very
can't
profitable,
meet it
you can't meet your obligations.
Yeah, you can't meet your obligations. That's why they say cash is to survive today. Profit is to survive tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll survive, but today we need to survive. And this is why now you find most of the businesses even go, for me, what I consider to be the worst part, the worst kind of working capital tool, which is very common. And I know most people actually, including banks, even say, but why do you say this? But for me, I find invoice discounting.
It's crazy.
Yes, because you are now under pressure. You're saying, okay, I'll only get this money in 30, 60 days, 90 days. Let me go to someone, let me discount it. They give me the money now, But what have you done to that profit?
Surrendered
That
your profits.
30% we're talking about is all gone, because
Correct, yeah.
now you have just given it to the person who is
Yes.
going to hold that receivable until repayment. So for me, I find that, yes, as an emergency, in fact, you should plan such that invoice discounting should really not come into the picture. For me, I even love supplier finance, because supplier finance, you can include in your cost the cost
Cost
of
of the
borrowing.
finance itself. Yeah, cost of,
The
yeah,
cost of financing, you include it, so that by the time you are,
pricing.
whatever you are doing, it's all covered within your
And you pass
within
it
your
on, yeah.
price. Yeah. That's why I love supplier finance compared to invoice discounting. But that happens because of the mismatch between profitability, yeah. And then we're still now, they just go and borrow from even the Shylocks, and with ridiculous, because how can somebody be charged, like, I don't know, 50% per month? It doesn't make sense to me. It's certainly, but you see, somebody has an obligation they have to meet. So what do?
They're
They
desperate.
end up
Yeah.
going into all of this, which is just a killer. That's why for most businesses, for me, like most of the Zambian businesses, they end up being stunted. So, so they look at debt and say the loan is the one which caused me to have stunted growth. No, 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 no. It's because it was not properly structured. And we
Structured.
didn't go into debt, understanding and planning nicely between the cash flow and uh, the cash and profitability side of things. Yeah.
Excellent. You talked about, size, the issue of the margin, the bank will scrutinize all that, cash flows and so on. What are other details that the bank will look at?
Yeah. The other details the bank will look at is your existing obligations. Do you have existing obligations? Why do they want that? They want to know what are the terms of those existing obligations and which assets have you allocated. Because the bank only lends when it can get a very good probability that they'll get their money back.
Hmm.
So they would want to see how much security do you have, and that security, how much has already been pledged with it for others, and what are the rights in there and things like that, because that will determine how much you have available for them to, or if at all, for them to actually lend you. So it's very important to have that, very, very clear in terms of where you are. And of course, the issue of security, making sure that your security is easily perfect, like if any caveats are all resolved before you even go and talk to the bank. Because what the bank does with the securities, they get it, then they go and do a search, and what. So all that comes to impact their decision and your bankability. So it's good to make sure that whatever security you want to pledge, uh, it's proper. All the things have been resolved, if at all there's anything like that. So
Excellent.
that's that on security. Then the other one is concentration risk. They also want to see, are you only supplying one customer?
One supplier. Yeah.
One,
One
because
customer. Yeah.
if that's the case, then they know that your business fundamentals are not strong. You're strong, it's not a strong basis. Like, for instance, if you are just supplying, say, Mopani as your, I'm just giving Mopani as an example, but it can be any other, but you're
Some
just
companies. Yeah.
supplying one mine, Mopani, and, 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, 4 million, 5 million, 6 million, 7 million, 8 million, 9 million, 10 million, 11 million, 12 million, 13 million, 14 million, 15 million, 16 million, 17 million, 18 million, 19 million, 20 million, 21 million, 22 million, 23 million, 24 million, 25 million, 26 million, 27 million, 28 million, 29 million, 30 million, 31 million, 32 million, 33 million, 34 million, 35 million, 36 million, 37 million, 38 million, 39 million, 40 million, 41 million, 42 million, 43 million, 44 million, 45 million, 46 million, 47 million, 48 million, 49 million, 50 million, 51 million, 52 million, 53 million, 54 million, 55 million, 56 million, 57 million, 58 million, 59 million, then you won't be bankable to the banks, because they know that immediately Mopani coughs,
You're
catches
in trouble.
a cold, you have a cough. So anything happens to Mopani, you are nowhere in the thing. So again, in terms of bankability, you need to see that your growth is deliberate. You need to diversify that concentration, and which goes also to your suppliers. You can't just have one supplier who you rely on and that's it, because should anything happen to that supplier, then your whole business model is gone. So you need to be making sure that you are developing both sides and making sure that the concentration risk is actually managed.
Excellent. How do we, counter this argument by mostly startup businesses that say, I'm only supplying Mopani because I've got limitation in working capital. If you give me more as a bank, I can supply KCM, I can supply, FQM, I can supply, other mining companies. I do not have the working capital to supply these companies. What is your counter to that argument?
For me, it's go and get, if you can get the business, then they are going to look at it. So it can't be the other way around. It can't be where they give you the finance and then you go, and no, you need to go and diversify first. Go to these other places and get the business. So once you have the business, confirmed orders in some areas, in some issues, it's more of an off-taker agreement of some sort. Whatever that, then that's the basis on which we can now go and discuss with the bank and say, look, I've got this opportunity. This is how the numbers are looking. I need you to. So they are the ones who can facilitate for you to go and not the other way around. So they would want you to go and get the business. And that, for me, that's because without a sale or an order, for me, then there is no business. Yeah.
Correct.
So if you can get orders from these places, then the financing for me is, and you've prepared nicely, you have everything in place, your governance documents, your books are in order, and you go and look for these orders, then approaching a bank to help you execute on that opportunity, even diversify, is actually much easier, is the easier part for me. So it's, instead of they say putting the cart before the horse, we need the horse first, which is have your house in order, then go and get the business. And this is what we do in the fractional CFO side. We give you information to say, look, this is how many orders you need to get to this. This is what you are getting. This is what your conversion cycle looks like. Your sales pipeline conversion, this is what it looks like. Yeah. So many orders or so many inquiries are resulting into orders, which are resulting into sales. So that then you know what do you want to pivot there and where. And say, oh, everything else is coming from one place. Can't we, because most of these issues, they are the same. What Mopani consumes, I'm sure that's what KCM consumes. I'm sure that's what FQM consumes, and Lumwana and what. So it's an issue of, going out there. But obviously having prepared yourself, and then you can go there, out there, and go and generate these sales. And this is the role we want to play. We don't want our entrepreneurs to be worried about the preparation side. They can leave that to us, because we've developed tools where at an affordable rate, we can support this. So that then they can just concentrate on, how do I get orders? How do I create relationships, get more inquiries, get more orders? How do I get registered on the number of these platforms so that you can receive inquiries?
Excellent. I think it's very important, point that you made, not only for the business, but also for the financial institutions. Taking away that headache of evaluating, the business. Businesses are now able to assess themselves, go through a matrix of questions and, do a quick self-assessment. Am I bankable? Without
Yes.
thinking this is rocket science. Credit to the team at Moa Zambia CFS. This is an important tool,
Absolutely.
and I can already get good.
Mm.
I'm getting, you know, great, feedback. But other
Yeah.
than this assessment tool, there is also the issue of legal and regulatory compliance that will help
Yeah.
business. And the bank, takes a close look at legal and regulatory compliance by business. Would you want to talk
Yeah.
through that and what role we can play as well?
Yes. Yes. Of course. First and foremost, and they even ask this question: is the ownership and everything else very clear, so that there are no struggles there in terms of the ownership, who owns what, and things like that. PACRA documentation should be very clean and very compliant. The next one is the issue of the TCC. Without the tax clearance, you can't actually do anything. These days, including your overdraft renewal now even needs a TCC. So you need to make sure that you are on top. Again, this is where we come to support. You are on top of your taxes and what obligations you have with the ZRI. And of course, yes, it's business. Sometimes business hasn't gone your way or things like that. You are unable to meet. The thing we have seen with the ZRI is, please engage them before they start their recovery actions. Because if you can go and engage them early, and this is where now you need experts to help you manage this. And for me, it's a worthwhile task to have somebody who can really have that proactive engagement with the ZRI and say, look, this is coming up. We are unable to do it now. This is what we can do, so that you resolve. You therefore make sure that your TCC is always active. Today, I had a client in my office, one of our clients, who's had some issues with the TCC, and he missed out on a big order. Why? Because they gave a conditional TCC, and now we are moving. And conditional TCC, they only give them up to the end of the quarter. So it was ending 30 June. The tender was due over the long weekend, and the TCC was only available after the long weekend.
Terrible. It's,
But
it's,
you
it's more
see,
like, yeah. Go on.
and this is, millions of what lost opportunity, all because of the TCC. NAPSA, I can see now everybody else is saying in their tenders and whatever, one of the eligibility issues they're putting in is your NAPSA certificate. Have all those things in place and make sure that they are all honky dory. So even from the bank's point of view, they want to make sure that those things, and for them also, that gives them an indicator of your credibility and your credit worthiness. Because if you have serious problems with the ZRIA and you can't get your TCC, then for them that's the biggest red flag. Then they even know that you are a very high risk for them to uh, to to lend money to you.
Excellent. There is also the aspect of, you know, the financial position of the company. A number of businesses, you know, make a mistake to think I only prepare my financial statements when I need to apply for a loan. I need to have my management accounts when I want to apply for a loan. But these are things that you should have. It's as good as having your travel documents, your important critical documents, you're having your pay slip in place. Your comment on that, and what role we play as more Zambia CFS to ensure that business don't worry about this. This is something we can take care of.
Very critical. One, that's another thing that causes a very big delay in having most of these facilities done, because it is now when they're, the borrower or the client only comes to us when they want to borrow. And then all these things, you find they're looking for 3 years financial statements. Yeah. They want management accounts which are current. So to prepare all of these things, if they've never been prepared, will take you, maybe a good to 1 to 2 months. And the opportunity is not going to wait. But if you have these things done and ready on time, which is part of the governance, is then, and we support in that space, then it's touch and go. And for me, even the biggest value is that now you become an intentional borrower, because it's the numbers which will actually tell you that, Bwana entrepreneur, we now need injection of money, so that you're not borrowing because of emergency. No, 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 no. Emergency borrowing for me is very dangerous, because you won't even bother to go and look for good deals. In terms of, there are so many lenders now, you can shop around. But if you are pressed for time, you just go for the first deal that comes your way, even if it's the most draconian one. Yeah. But if you have your numbers, somebody is able to take you through your numbers, you can understand your numbers, your margins, your whatever. You can even simulate how much debt and what debt will do in terms of the upside and even the downside. If the downside happened, where would we be? The financial information is key, and the banks need that, because, and if you can show to the bank that you actually have all of these, they are a routine, it even helps in terms of your profile as, the risk profile. And of course, therefore, the lower the risk profile, the more bankable you are.
Excellent. We don't want to have an information overload that may lead to our, very good SMEs, their customers, tripping with knowledge. We want to stop here. But before we go, I want your parting, short here, CD, with regards to bankability.
Yeah. So when it comes to bankability, my thoughts are that, bankability is not created, the day that you create the loan application, but it's through the monthly, like every month you are checking the key things, the profitability, the disciplined cash flow. So it's in the execution. For me, that's what creates bankability, and having all these things, reliable records, and it's very, very critical for me as a basis for decisions. So as entrepreneurs, if we are to scale, we can't make decisions which are just by feeling. No, 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 no. They have to be backed by numbers. We need to be able to say, okay, we are going for that opportunity because this is what it will do to this business. And therefore, we are going to borrow because this is what it will do to this business. So for me, it's in, first of all, having those business disciplines, having a rolling cash flow forecast, maintaining a 3 to 6 months cash reserve for operating expenses, so that even in bad times, and that's another thing that the banks look at, by the way, even when you are under pressure, what is the margin of safety that you have in your
Yeah.
business? So all that can only be from numbers. So that's why I'm very passionate about our fractional CF4 offering, where it's a full stack. We start with the sales engine. We want to give you numbers in the sales engine to show you what's happening there, and then we go to the finance and compliance pack. We again, management accounts, monthly compliance reports, and everything else, so that we ensure that at any point in time you are making decisions that are based on data rather than by feel.
Excellent. Excellent. CD, as usual, always good to listen to your infinite wisdom on business. It's been awesome. Awesome. I hope you had fun talking about
Yeah,
all
I
these
had great
nice
fun, and I'm
inspirational.
really humbled. I so look forward to this kind of engagement every time. And thank you so much for making time. I know you are in Solwezi doing great things there, but yeah, I'm glad that you made time that we could do this.
This is important for us. CD will always be available. And thank you so much. Great feedback from the guys out there, with regards to the podcast, the good things that we're doing. And keep up the good work. And I'll always be here to share our knowledge with the business out there. So thanks a lot, CD, and enjoy the rest of your week.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers. Thank you.
Over and out.
Thank you.